My hearing aid picks up horrible sounds that nobody else can hear. I'm going to get my ears surgically removed tomorrow. If I even have them by then. Then? I was crying when I was able to hear the doctor after a year. Following a motorcycle accident, I lost my hearing and spent a tumultuous year in silence. I know many unfortunate people endure lifelong deafness, but my 18th year was the hardest of my life. For various reasons that aren't worth discussing, I had to wait a long time to receive a cochlear implant. Thanks, Dr. Stewart, I croaked with tears in my eyes. As my family and I were gleefully gliding down the long corridors of the hospital, lost in conversation, I disregarded numerous red flags. Overwhelmed by the hospital's cacophony of sound, I didn't pay attention to the noises that only I could hear. It was in hindsight that I realized I'd been overlooking unusual things from the second my implant had been activated. Where? I asked my sister. I didn't say anything, weirdo. Mom, Ben's ears are broken again, Beth said. I snorted at her sassy quip, though my mom didn't seem to find it quite as funny. Still, I frowned, as I was certain I heard a voice say, in the doorway. When we arrived home, there was a welcome party of friends from my sixth form and relatives I hadn't seen in a long time. It was a jubilant occasion. My first ordinary evening in a year. The last ordinary evening of my life. It was on that first night, as I lay in bed, that some unholy breeze seeped beneath my duvet, biting my flesh with frozen fangs. The doctor had warned that things would sound tinny, but that wasn't what I was experiencing. My family and friends had all sounded robotic as they spoke. The voice in the car and the footsteps in the mud, however, had a distinctness to them, more intimate than any sound I'd ever heard, even before losing my hearing. I sat upright in my bed and listened to the paced, purposeful footsteps. I did consider that a noisy neighbor might be strolling through their own squelching garden. I considered that I'd simply gained superhuman hearing. Eventually, the footsteps ceased, and I lay down, tucking myself beneath the duvet and closing my eyes. In the doorway, my toes curled until the nails had burrowed painfully into my flesh. It was the whispery voice that I had heard in the car. It sounded as if it had been whispered directly into my ear. My eyelids flew open, I sprang to a sitting position. There was nobody in the room. But I know what I heard. It wasn't an implant glitch. It wasn't the radio. It was a real voice. I started to hyperventilate, my skin itching under the weight of the invisible eyes that watched me. I didn't get any sleep. I sat in the dark for hours, eyeballing my bedroom wall. When I finally heard my sister stroll across the landing to get ready for work, I exhaled. I was still quivering, but at least I wasn't alone. She knocked on the door and entered without waiting for a reply. "How'd you sleep?" she asked. "Any problems with the implant?" Heart still racing, I feigned a smile and shook my head. "I heard your deep, masculine snores from the other end of the landing. It's working perfectly." Beth smiled and leant calmly against the doorframe. "Jokes aside, I missed our dumb chats. God, it's good to be able to talk to you again, Ben." I smiled, rubbing the sleep out of my eyes, and looked up to reply to my sister. To my horror, I found myself looking at a hand on Beth's shoulder, a decaying, near-fleshless hand. Seemingly detached from any visible body, it tightly clenched my sister. "You all right, little man?" she asked, wincing and clutching her shoulder. "You look a bit pale. Maybe you..." Before my sister could say another word, the frightful fingers tightly clawed into her body and tugged. Beth was torn backwards, wrenched by a phantom force, and she tumbled over the banisters on the upstairs landing. I screamed and ran out of my room, only to find myself standing at the top of the stairs, faced with a sight I cannot scrub from my memory. My sister's body lay crumpled and disfigured at the foot of the staircase. Her ears were non-existent. They were torn off, only replaced by the raw flesh below them. I could see the inner workings of her ears, and I almost passed out right there. My parents quickly emerged, screeching incoherently for help. As I stood there, transfixed by the horror of events unfolding around me, I felt something haunting, a hand on my own shoulder. Words tentatively trickled into my ear. "It's not polite to eavesdrop, Benjamin."